There is something subtle happening in our world today. If you look closely, you'll notice it. The ones who carry stillness in their presence, whose gaze holds depth, whose words cut through illusion, they are fading from public life. Not through death, but through quiet withdrawal. Carl Jung once said that the modern man is in danger of losing his soul. And he was right. In a culture obsessed with consumption, noise, and endless stimulation, those who have awakened to the life of the soul find themselves strangers in their own land. Their values no longer match the values of the collective. While society races toward speed, surface, and distraction, the awakened turn inward, toward slowness, silence, and meaning. This is not an accident. Spiritual awakening always separates the individual from the herd. To awaken is to see through the illusions that hold the collective together. The illusion that success is measured by accumulation. The illusion that happiness can be purchased. The illusion that constant connection equals genuine intimacy. When these illusions fall away, a terrifying clarity emerges. Most of what passes for life in modern society is not life at all. It is machinery. It is performance. It is survival without soul. So what happens to those who awaken? They begin to vanish. They stop showing up to meaningless conversations. They stop chasing the next shiny object. They stop pretending that the shallow dramas of the day carry weight. Slowly, they retreat into the hidden corners of existence. Not out of arrogance, but out of necessity. How can a soul breathe in a world suffocating under its own noise, under the endless scroll of social media, under schedules that leave no space for reflection? Jung called this retreat individuation, the process of becoming whole by turning inward, confronting the shadow, and integrating the depths of the unconscious. To walk this path is to walk away from the crowd. It is to choose truth over comfort, silence over noise, authenticity over approval. And because this path is so rare, those who walk it seem to disappear from society's stage. But here's the paradox. The spiritually awake are not gone. They live among us, hidden in plain sight, carrying an awareness that the collective has forgotten. Their disappearance is not rejection, it is protection. They vanish because the world no longer speaks their language, and unless you too begin to listen with the ears of the soul, you may never even notice their absence. This is the first truth we must accept. The spiritually awake are disappearing not because they have abandoned society, but because society has abandoned the soul. And as the noise grows louder around us, those who hear the call of the spirit grow quieter, moving further into a space that the world cannot reach. Picture this. Someone sits in a bustling cafe, surrounded by chatter, phones buzzing, notifications pinging, and everyone rushing through life as if it were a race. He noticed the emptiness beneath the conversations, the weightlessness of everyone's smiles, and the endless distractions keeping people from facing themselves. He speaks cautiously, trying to share something real, a thought about meaning, about purpose, or about slowing down. And suddenly, the energy shifts. A laugh here, a shrug there, subtle gestures of discomfort. It's not hostility. It's the unspoken message, you don't belong here. Slowly, they shrink back, withdrawing from spaces that feel suffocating, from relationships that demand performance over authenticity. This is the invisible pressure the spiritually awake face every day. Carl Jung understood this centuries ago. He called it the tension between the individual and the collective unconscious. Society thrives on conformity, on shared illusions, on routines that distract from inner reflection. When someone awakens spiritually, when they begin to see through these illusions, that success is accumulation, that happiness can be bought, that constant distraction equals connection, they disrupt the rhythm of the collective, and disruption breeds discomfort. The rejection is subtle, almost invisible. On social media, the spiritually awake are mocked for being too serious or too quiet. In workplaces, their refusal to play political games or chase hollow metrics marks them as outsiders. Among friends or family, their different way of seeing the world can make people uncomfortable, even defensive. It's not deliberate cruelty. Most of society doesn't even notice it. They are simply defending the illusions they rely on to feel safe and normal. And yet, the spiritually awake persist. They adapt without surrendering. They learn to navigate the world without losing themselves, finding quiet spaces, deep conversations, and moments that nurture the soul. Their withdrawal is not defeat. It is survival, a way to protect the inner life in a world that rarely values depth. This is the paradox. The spiritually awake are not weak or broken. They are rare, and their presence exposes the hollowness most people ignore. And because society is built to favor comfort over truth, they are gently but persistently pushed to the margins. Over time, their absence becomes nearly invisible. The lesson is clear. The spiritually awake disappear, not because they choose to abandon society, but because society cannot bear their presence. And as the noise and distractions of modern life grow louder, those who refuse to compromise must either vanish quietly or be overwhelmed. Imagine a person sitting on a park bench, headphones in, phone in hand, and notifications buzzing every few seconds. The world around them moves fast, endless messages, endless images, endless opinions, all competing for attention. They try to focus on a thought, a feeling, a quiet inner truth, but the noise keeps intruding. Every ping pulls them outward, away from themselves, away from what matters. Slowly, they begin to disengage. Not because they don't want to connect, but because the world's constant overstimulation makes real presence impossible. This is the modern trap. Carl Jung warned that the human psyche cannot thrive in environments designed to drown out the soul. Yet today, the majority of life is lived through screens, schedules, and endless inputs that leave little room for reflection, stillness, or awareness. For someone who is spiritually awake, this creates a kind of exhaustion that most people cannot see. Their energy, their clarity, their capacity for depth, all are consumed by a world that thrives on distraction. Over time, the spiritually awake stop participating in certain spaces. They scroll less. They avoid events that feel shallow. They step back from relationships that demand constant energy without meaningful exchange. They are not being antisocial. They are protecting their inner life. It's a silent survival tactic, a conscious withdrawal from overstimulation. Jung might say this is another stage of individuation, a necessary separation from environments that threaten the psyche. The spiritually awake are learning to curate their lives, to choose where attention goes, to preserve inner depth. They are learning that presence cannot coexist with constant distraction, and in doing so, they appear to vanish. They are still present in the world, but only where the world allows space for reflection and depth. Here's what makes this uniquely human. We all feel the pull of distraction. We all struggle to stay present, and yet few notice the awakened because they have learned to protect themselves in silence. Their absence is not dramatic, but it is profound. They are becoming invisible, not through rejection, but through necessity. And this is where it gets personal. If you've ever felt drained by endless notifications, tired of shallow conversations, or disconnected in crowds, you're beginning to understand the world from their perspective. There is a different way to exist, slower, quieter, deeper, but it requires intentionality. It requires seeing through the noise and choosing what feeds the soul, not the ego. If this perspective resonates with you, if it makes sense why some people seem missing in today's world, take a moment to pause. And if you want to explore more of these truths, the way the spiritually awake navigate a world built on distraction, subscribe. Not for the noise, not for the hype, but for insight that helps you see the world and yourself more clearly. Being spiritually awake in today's world is not easy. It comes with a hidden cost, one that few recognize until it is deeply felt. Every insight, every moment of clarity, every refusal to conform carries with it tension. Society is built to reward compliance, noise, and superficial engagement. Those who refuse to participate in this machinery are often misunderstood, judged, or isolated. And over time, even the strongest awareness must reckon with the emotional toll of being different. Carl Jung emphasized that true individuation, the process of integrating the conscious and unconscious, discovering the self, is not painless. To see reality clearly is to see the cracks in the world that others ignore. To feel deeply is to notice the indifference, the superficiality, the unspoken judgments that surround us. Spiritually awake people bear this weight silently. They are witnesses to a world that has largely forgotten its soul, and that witness comes at a personal price. Loneliness, exhaustion, and sometimes even doubt. This cost is not measured in material terms. It is measured in subtle losses. The gradual fading of friendships that no longer resonate, the quiet discomfort in family gatherings where depth is unwelcome, the moments of isolation that arise not from choice but from necessity. Each day, the awake must navigate spaces that drain their energy, conversations that feel hollow, and environments that prioritize appearance over essence. This constant misalignment wears on the psyche. Yet there is a paradox here, and it is essential to understand it. The emotional cost of awakening is also the path to liberation. Every withdrawal from meaningless interaction, every pause to reflect, every conscious choice to live in alignment with the soul strengthens resilience, deepens insight, and sharpens clarity. The spiritually awake learn to protect themselves without retreating from life entirely. They cultivate inner spaces where the soul can breathe, and in doing so, they preserve what society cannot give them: authenticity, presence, and depth. This lesson extends to anyone who feels out of step with the world. The discomfort, the isolation, the subtle rejection, it is not a sign of weakness or failure. It is evidence of alignment with something far greater than the approval of the collective. The spiritually awake are often misunderstood because they value what the world undervalues: truth over comfort, depth over distraction, authenticity over performance. And so, their disappearance from public life is not an end. It is a protective measure. It is a conscious recalibration, a way to survive in a world that constantly erodes inner clarity. The emotionally and spiritually awake are choosing presence over approval, depth over recognition, and meaning over noise. The lesson is simple yet profound. To remain spiritually awake in a distracted, shallow world requires courage, patience, and unwavering commitment to one's inner life. And while the world may not always notice, the impact of living in alignment with the soul is immeasurable. Think about that. The spiritually awake are disappearing from the world, not by accident, and not because they have given up on life. They are vanishing because the world has become inhospitable to their kind of presence. Society, with its endless noise, distractions, shallow connections, and hollow pursuits, leaves little room for depth. Those who carry inner clarity, who see beyond appearances, who live aligned with their soul, find the public stage increasingly suffocating. They do not vanish out of fear, but out of necessity. Their retreat is a choice, a deliberate, conscious act to preserve what is most essential: their inner life. This disappearance is a profound statement. It signals a collective imbalance. In a culture obsessed with speed, achievement, and appearances, the awake feel alien. Their very awareness exposes the emptiness around them, and when you expose emptiness, discomfort follows. Society instinctively resists them. It is not always outward hostility, but subtle indifference, avoidance, and misunderstanding. Over time, this quiet pressure pushes the spiritually awake toward withdrawal. Yet, withdrawal does not mean absence from life. They are still here, moving in spaces that nurture their awareness. In quiet reflection, in meaningful conversation, in work that aligns with purpose, and in moments of true presence. Their retreat is protective, but it is also instructive. It reveals something vital about the world we inhabit. Depth, meaning, and truth are fragile. They cannot survive in a culture that prioritizes distraction, performance, and superficial validation. The spiritually awake are not missing. They are a mirror. They show us what life could be if we chose substance over noise. But there is a cost. To live spiritually awake in this world is to accept solitude, discomfort, and sometimes profound loneliness. Friendships fade, relationships strain, and participation in society often feels hollow. Jung described this as part of individuation, the difficult process of becoming whole, of integrating the conscious and unconscious, of choosing the soul over the crowd. It is not an easy path, but it is the only path that allows the awakened to retain clarity, integrity, and presence. And here lies the lesson for all of us. Being awake is not passive. It is not simply noticing the world's illusions. It is a deliberate commitment to live in alignment with what is real, meaningful, and true. It is a decision to preserve the soul amidst a culture that forgets it. To follow this path, one must make choices every day. What to engage with, what to ignore, what to let in, and what to protect. The spiritually awake disappear publicly so that they can appear fully within themselves. Their absence is the world's loss, but it is the individual's salvation. Now consider this. The world is not inherently hostile, but it is loud, fast, and superficial. If you feel alienated, disconnected, or exhausted by society, you are not failing. You are noticing. You are awakening. And in recognizing this, you have a choice. You can follow the currents of distraction, blending into the machinery, or you can cultivate depth, meaning, and presence in your own life. To those who are beginning to notice, who feel the pull of awareness, this is a call. Preserve your inner life. Seek spaces, relationships, and experiences that nourish your soul. Step back when necessary. Speak only when it carries truth. And in doing so, you join a quiet lineage of those who refuse to surrender to noise, performance, and illusion. The spiritually awake are vanishing from society, but not from the world itself. Their presence endures in the stillness they create, the depth they carry, and the clarity they maintain. And if you listen carefully, you may begin to hear them in yourself. If this resonates with you, take a moment now to subscribe. Your journey toward clarity starts here. If you've been following this journey, noticing the truths we rarely speak aloud, reflecting on the ideas that stir something inside you, then you already understand the value of conscious attention. This channel exists to explore those depths, to ask the questions society often avoids, and to honor the voices of the spiritually awake. If you feel that this work resonates and you want to see it continue, to help create more reflections, insights, and ideas that challenge the noise around us, consider supporting us on Patreon. Even a small contribution helps keep these ideas alive, allows us to dive deeper, and ensures that the quiet voices of awareness continue to be heard. No pressure, no obligation, just a chance to join a community that values depth, clarity, and reflection as much as you do. And if you can't support financially, your presence, your engagement, and your shared reflections are equally meaningful.